Now we go into procedure. What did I say policy was? It was a guideline or a boundary within which you can make a decision. Procedure is the exact thing that you have to do, which means they are clear-cut administrative specifications and prescribed in the chronological manner. Now, have you bought a television or maybe even a music system? What is it that they give you in a manual? It is nothing but the clear-cut administrative specifications or clear-cut specifications of how to operate the system. So you first plug in the power cable, make sure all the parts or all the the CD player cases are closed, make sure that there's a stabilizer, make sure it's connected to a TV or whatever, and then you do it in a chronological manner. So you have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So you have a chronological order and it gives you exactly what you have to do. It also comes with what the pictorial representations of each action. So if you need to plug in, they show you the plug and they show you the actual place where you need to insert it, and they show the direction of insertion as well. So that is what you mean by clear-cut policy. It tells you what they are. It's nothing but work instructions. When you go to work in a particular place, what are the things that you do? You see a board. First thing, remove your footwear. Make sure you put on the radioactive badge if you're going to a nuclear plant, and then whatever the instructions are, that is nothing but procedure, the exact things that you have to do. Policy is flexible to a certain extent, but procedure is strict. They are guides to action. Also, in fact, for every repetitive procedures, they are established. So if a given activity has a procedure and that is enacted or is performed over and over again, it becomes what is called as a written procedure or established procedure. That is what we have with procedure. Distinction between policies and procedure, we already spoke about it, discussed about it. These are just guides to decision making, where procedures are guides to action. This is about decision making, this is about action. There is room for interpretation, which means you can work within the boundary of the policy, but the procedure is rigid. Now, I already gave the example of the first come first serve policy. Now, what could be the procedure? You could say the procedure step 1, only people who physically come to the location would be considered for this particular process or this particular gift or whatever, and you need to queue up at say 6 o'clock, or the queuing starts at 6 o'clock. You give clear instructions. That is your procedure, whereas your policy only says first come first serve. So policies are basic things and procedures about working, and then using the policy you can work out the procedures. So you have a policy and you decide the procedure based on that. What is forecasting? Before we go into this forecasting, what is a weather forecast? Why do we have the weather forecast? Supposing you have a cyclone tomorrow, why does the Met department come out and say there is a hurricane or there is a storm developing or a depression, cyclonic storm near the coast? Hence, fishermen, please don't go fishing today. Or why do they give that for announcement of holiday for school or college? What if it's going to be a bright sunny day or a very hot day? What do they forecast? They are looking at events that are going to take place, or they're going to predict events in the future based on the conditions or the data available. That is nothing but forecasting. Systematic attempt to probe. So it is unlike things like just some kind of prophecy. It is more of systematic attempt to probe. So it's based on data, based on evidence. Business forecasting refers to statistical analysis. So use the past information from the previous days, the previous years, and you try and develop a pattern, you try and analyze that, you develop some knowledge, and based on that, if you have a certain condition, you decide that this is what is going to happen. So that is what forecasting means. And in business, there is called the stock market, where you have the stock market, people are often sitting there forecasting the markets. If there's a change in the political environment, there's a change in stocks. If there is a fall in the value of currency, there is a change in the value of shares. If there is what is called as a recession, then you have change of value of shares. So you're basically forecasting what the value of a share is going to be. That is going to impact business very much. So if foresight is not the whole of management, at least it's an essential part of it. Why do you say that? Now, when you say forecasting is important in management, a lot of things are done based on forecasting. We just assume that this is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen. Or you can say the fact that a lot of things in management are to do with intuition, what you feel, what you sense. But when you do it with some evidence, it becomes far more credible. That's what foresight is all about. So what is it for forecasting? It helps planning. So when you forecast that there's going to be a recession, you plan for it. Then you have the managerial decisions. Then you have singleness of purpose as well. So these are some of the things that will help you by actually being to forecasting. What are the limitations? Now, today I make decisions for tomorrow based on the assumption that tomorrow is going to be what I have predicted. But a lot of these things change. There are a lot of challenges even with planning. When you spend a lot of time, resources planning, the time that you actually spent has changed the conditions in which you are going to operate or the time when you're actually going to see the forecast in action. Hence, there's a change. For example, you could plan for an expansion of a unit, and while planning, conditions seem favorable in the future, and that is your forecast. But there is a recession, unexpected from as a result of something that has happened outside the country, and it has hit every market. What do? That is why you have limitations, and it is not the absolute truth, because nobody knows what's in store in the future. It's only what you predict. Even if it is a statistic model, you are limited by the fact that it is not the absolute truth. And the business conditions are dynamic and changing. So the business conditions are always changing, not stable. Anything that happens in the social context impacts business, political, technological, you name it, economic, all of them impact business. So it is sometimes insane to actually predict things or forecast things and spend a lot of money believing that the conditions would exactly be what we assume it to be.